to Suzette's Guilty Pleasures, a chance for you to be a part of the craziness in my head. I'm your host, Suzette, and on today's episode, we will be speaking to Kenisha Martin from Saved and Single. We will be listening to how she started her Saved and Single platform and what her platform is all about. So let's go.
All right.
So let's talk about Kenisha. Kenisha is a local gospel recording artist. Throughout her 20 years journey with the Lord, she has faced many challenges, but God has proven to be a deliverer.
Mhm.
She's currently finishing her studies in clinical psychotherapy and looks forward to working with a wide array of individuals and cultures. Forming and maintaining healthy relationships, platonic or romantic, within the body of Christ has become her passion, hence the creation of Saved and Single. She wants to see everyone win their relationships. Woohoo! Yes, my girl. I hear you. I hear you. So let's talk about what is Saved and Single.
So first of all, let's just make sure we have the name correct. It's saved, the letter N, single,
Yeah,
not A-N-D, not to be confused with
right.
A-N-D. Um, and so what that stands for is the first half is saved, Christian, follower of Jesus Christ. The single part is just happens to be um, an individual status.
Okay.
The N stands for the word not. And so how it would work is saved, not depressed, single. So you put an adjective in there um, to define your status. And
Okay.
so for those who are married that follow saved and single, it'll be saved, not looking to be single, right?
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Um, and so the reason for the N is because I recognize that a lot of individuals have this perception
Mhm.
that you're single. Oh, you must depressed, you must be depressed, you must be this. So it's like, hold up, I'm saved, not depressed, single. Like, right? It's like I felt like there needed to be some kind of explanation that's associated with that single status because the connotation I find, well, within the church anyways, right?
Right.
um it can be negative,
Mhm.
and I just want individuals to basically recognize that it's not.
Right.
Additionally, for those who are saved and single, the family who happen to be single and saved, is for them to just gain back their identity.
Mhm.
That just because you're single doesn't mean that you're going to be the following adjectives that people prescribe to you,
Mhm.
right? So that's a way of you claiming back who you are, taking authority. Like, I am single, but that doesn't mean I'm this, that, and the other,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that was the reason behind the name.
I like that. I
Thank
like that. And the way you explained it, because to be honest with you, I when I first heard the name, I was thinking saved and A-N-D, even though you spelled it N, but I was like A-N-D single. So I've always
Right,
thought about as being saved in the Christian world, but being single at the same time. What does
right.
it look like? So the way that you explain that, it makes more sense. So I like that. I like that. That's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like being saved and single. So being a single Christian, like how do you find that standards are different looking for a partner? So I know like sometimes a lot of people feel that if you're a Christian and you're single, then there's already a stereotype, right? Oh, she must be looking for a Christian man and she's stuck up and she this and you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming you're single, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it? What is being a single Christian? Like, do you find that standards are different when you're looking for a partner?
Standards are different for females versus male, you mean, or just
Yeah,
in
female
terms
versus
of?
just even your own experience.
I do find that there is uh difference, a big difference.
Okay.
So I find being a Christian female
Right.
and a committed Christian female,
Right.
and this is not to throw stones at anyone who may be on the borderline, of not quite sure how to live their lives as being a Christian, or just, people who may be teeter-tottering,
Yeah.
not to throw stones at all. But I
Right.
just find that individuals who are women, rather, who are studious in the word, they know the scriptures, like they can, bat them off one by one,
Right.
and they're trying to actually apply it to their lives. I find for them the standards are a little bit higher in terms of when they're looking for a partner.
Okay.
You want someone who can match you on that spiritual level. And so sometimes when you date someone, and again, this isn't to throw stones at all,
Sure, for sure.
but there is a difficulty there at times when the gentleman may be behind in his spiritual life. He doesn't know scripture, he doesn't really know what anything means. He may know the one or two, but when he doesn't necessarily spend time in the word and knows like how to apply different texts to different scenarios or be able to regurgitate a passage and make it applicable to whatever is happening in someone's life, it can be a little bit difficult. The standard is it's difficult because the woman is essentially looking for a man to lead her.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
so sometimes if he may have everything together, he may look good, he has his job and his finances, but then you find that void on that spiritual side,
Right.
it can be a little difficult
Okay.
because, men are the leaders.
This
And
is
so to follow her, sometimes it can, depending on the woman, right? It opens the door for demasculating him spiritually,
exactly.
or emasculating him spiritually, right? So sometimes it can be kind of tricky. So she may want him to do certain things, maybe initiate prayer or initiate, can we fast together, or initiate spiritual conversations, and he may not. So for her, it may be a little bit difficult,
Yeah.
right? While if the gentleman is more spiritually inclined, and the woman isn't necessarily, a sister that's like all up in the book, it's a little bit more easier. Now, I'm not saying he won't have difficulty, but it's sometimes a little bit more easier to navigate around that. So
Yeah.
if he's introducing prayer and he's introducing those spiritual elements for the woman to follow along, if she may not be as spiritual as him, it's a little bit easier for her to follow along. And
Right.
even obviously the ones who are spiritual,
Right.
for her to follow along it's a little bit more easier than the other way around, where the woman is more spiritual and she's trying to get him
Good
to
point.
like, come on, let's go to church, or come on, let's.
Right.
It's more of a pull, right? Um, Another way that I find the standards are different is that not only in the spiritual world, but like temporally,
Mm.
right? In terms of looks and whatnot and age and da 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 da, I find men can go fluid. Like they can go back and forth with the age bracket. Once they're legal,
Mm-hmm.
they can go as young as they want and they can go as old as they want. And
Exactly.
there isn't too much of like this negative eyebrow raise
Now,
unless he goes, right? Unless he goes extremely young. Like if she's like 18 and he's like hitting 40, it's kind of like,
exactly.
you can get some people that are like, what are you doing? But
Yep.
generally speaking, there isn't really um any issues. There's no side eye, as we would say. If he went too young or even if he went older, it's like, good for you, right?
I'm going to woman and she said,
Right? Right. But if the woman went too young, it's like, geez, she's so desperate. She couldn't find nobody in her age bracket. La 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 la. Right? If she goes too old, it's like, are you sure you want to do this? You're gonna lose out all your life. Do you have daddy issues? Why is he so much older than you? It's all these stipulations regarding this small little thing.
right.
And men can get away with that. That women generally can't get away with that. So
True.
yeah, it's different in that regard too. And even in the financial piece, I'm gonna stop, but like, right, even in the financial piece, um I've noticed it. I know for myself, maybe I haven't been so lucky like Jesus. Why? But you know I find that if the woman isn't necessarily, and things are changing now, however, but maybe a couple of years ago, if she wasn't necessarily like all together there, like the boss chick and whatnot, men were like, okay, no worries,
Right.
right? But for the guy to be the gentleman, where it's like he couldn't get no better job, he
Yes.
couldn't da 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 da.
Yes.
There's all these things, right? While he could accept a woman that maybe works at jobs that people don't esteem,
Exactly.
for a woman to accept a gentleman that maybe has a job that's not, prestigious, it's kind of like,
He's dumbing down.
geez, right?
Yeah.
Kind of this looking down. So the standards are a little bit different in that sense,
Right.
right? Even in the looks and whatnot.
For sure. I know. Yeah, definitely. Do you think that there's so do you feel that there's a double standard when it
Absolutely.
comes to the men?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that based on your question where you said it's easier for a woman to follow the man than the woman than the man to follow the woman, which I do agree with you. But do you feel that because it's easier for a woman, it's because of that submissive attitude? So would you say that they're being submissive, or because you know how they use that term submissive? Oh, that means that the man can do whatever he wants, he can control you. Da, da, da. That's how some people think. Some people think like that, but some people do also understand that's not what submissive means, right? But do you feel that in it could lead to? I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to word this, but like if the woman, it's easier for the woman to follow through with the man because basically she needs to be submissive to her man. So this is why she has to follow with her man. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There are some elements to that, right? There are elements to that play. Sorry, my eye. There's some of those that does play into it. Um, but I wouldn't say that's the only thing because there are dangers to that as well, right? If we use submission in a negative sense, that people try to misuse it. If a woman is um steps behind him, you could end up with abuse of power spiritually, right? So abuse in like financial abuse and all sorts of things within the relationship. So um, that submission piece is tender. It's you have to navigate towards that very um, cautiously because I don't want to say something that isn't the truth.
Yeah.
So a part of a woman being able to follow a man that's more spiritually inclined does have something to do with the submission piece
Okay.
and the fact that he's taking role, like he's in that leadership role, he's taking charge, right? um it does definitely play into it, and even if you have a woman that's more spiritual, for the man to follow her depending on his temperament, right? It kind of like I said, does he feel like he's being like his manhood is being questioned?
Right.
Like, I don't know that text and she this da, 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 she knows all this. So there's a lot there, there's so many layers to that.
For sure. Okay, for sure, for sure. Do you feel that there's a different criteria when you're starting the dating stage? So I know, like, in the heathen world, but in the world,
Yeah.
sometimes there'll be like oh, we're just gonna talk, and you have like a 1-2 conversation on the phone, and all of a sudden, all right, let's go out, and then God knows where that ends up leading. But versus, like, do you feel that as and I already know the answer, but I still want to hear your response. Do you feel that within the Christian world that the dating stage is different? Like there's a different criteria of how you pursue somebody and date that person or court that person?
No, I think the only difference would depend on the people, the ages of the individual.
Okay.
So if someone is more mature, 30 plus and so on, how they go about that dating will be much different than somebody in their early 20s, late teens, early 20s when they're starting that dating phase. So someone who may be, and with reason, right? This isn't everybody. This is just
Right.
general. Yeah. So early 20s, late teens, early 20s, starting to date, starting to, mess around with people and figure out who you like, what you don't like in that regard. The questions you ask may be much different than the questions somebody in their 30s or 40s who are single would end up asking.
Very true.
So if early 20s, I may not get to those serious questions till 3 months in
Right.
or 2 months in because they're not at the forefront of your mind.
Exactly.
Depending on that person, again, just generally,
Yeah.
right? While somebody who's older, they might get to those serious questions by the third conversation. Be
Right.
like, who are you? What? Because I got time. I got time to waste.
And
I
it's
ain't trying to get to know you for 3 months to realize I don't like you.
exactly, exactly. And it's about experience too. Like some of us already has it gone through or experienced enough to know, like, okay, let's cut to the chase. And
Exactly.
like as you said, I'm not trying to waste anybody's time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Okay. Do you feel that there is the do you feel that the questions do you feel that the questions are somewhat different to ask, like the question, not okay, when I say the questions would be different, I don't mean based on the ages or the stage of that person, but just in general, like the questions that you would ask somebody when you're starting to date with them. What is it that you're looking for? What you're looking for? Like what kind of questions would you ask?
Okay.
For
So I guess when you're saying different, you mean someone who's a Christian versus someone who's not?
yeah.
Okay. So obviously, maybe not obviously, for those who care, They want to know are you a Christian too.
Right.
They want to know what denomination are you if that's relevant to them. Those are some questions that they would ask, right? I know I recently had this conversation and I felt like fire and brimstone was coming down on me, but I was like, listen, it's important. So some of the questions would be about sex,
Right.
right? Are you the kind of Christian that are you dibble dabbling? Are you going to engage in premarital sex, aka fornication,
Right.
or are you going to wait? I
Right.
think it would be naive for us to assume that because somebody's a Christian, automatically they're not going to think they want to have sex or they're
Yeah.
not going to want to engage. Or actually, how about what's your experience? Now, I'm not talking about are you a virgin, are you not a virgin? I just want to know, have you had any intimate
Right.
um, kind of interaction with anybody?
Right.
Now, I'm a different one, eh? I'm a different one because when I ask that question, and I ask that question not just male and female. I need to know, have you explored the other side?
You do need to nowadays. You need to ask that question. Yeah.
Right?
And
Those are
exactly.
questions.
Like, and I'm not knocking anyone, obviously, in their lifestyle too. But
Right.
as it sounds, you also have to ask, like, what were you born?
That too.
When you were born. Just gotta ask.
That too.
There's
That
a lot
too.
of stuff that you don't realize, right? And I know that a lot of people say that they've been tricked, or they assume that this is what that this person is because that's what you see. But then next thing you know, it's like, still got my body parts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, that's another. You're right. You have to ask that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are questions that maybe someone who isn't a Christian, depending on, what they like and
Mhm,
whatnot, they may not ask or they may ask. So
mhm.
I think for a Christian, those questions are just like, yo, I need to know. um, Other things would be, um, which will be attached to the answer. So
Right.
if they responded depending on their denomination, how sold out are you? Because if you're a Sabbath keeper, would you then change over to someone who goes to church on Sunday or Wednesday?
Right.
If you go to church on Sundays, would you come over to someone who goes to church on Sabbath and dietary restrictions? Like there's just a whole lot of those kinds of questions
Yeah.
that somebody who doesn't necessarily go to church probably wouldn't even care for, right? Um,
It-
yeah, those are like the basic ones, really. And I know regarding like sex and whatnot, like even some Christians probably don't want to engage and ask that question, but I ain't naive.
yeah,
So
for sure. For sure. And I mean, you also don't want to like be thinking, oh no, nothing, they've never had sex or whatever, and then find out they're not a virgin.
that too. But you know what's funny? I've had like a couple conversations with individuals. It's not even just about sex, right? So you have some Christians where it's like, I'm not kissing, I'm not hugging, we're not holding hands. We can hug, but like, the kind of
It's like,
you know, and then there's like no kissing, no nothing. And then you have some Christians like, we're not gonna have sex. Like, I don't think we should have sex, but we're kissing, we're making out, we're doing the whole shebang. We just won't go there.
right,
So like that's important for you to know what this person's expecting in that relationship.
for
I
sure.
find individuals who are not Christians, that sexual intimacy is a part of the relationship.
And
It
even
may not necessarily,
the dating part of it, because
yeah,
some of them feel like I need to know what I'm getting into, because
right,
we're not compatible, then why am I wasting
right,
time, right? In the
exactly.
early stages, sometimes that's important, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like those are the little areas that definitely would set us apart.
Right. Okay.
Everything else I think is pretty much standard.
And
Um,
I agree with you on a lot of what you said. I think for sure a lot of the big keys would definitely be the sexual piece and the belief, right? And then
yeah.
that leads into the next question. Like, if you were to date somebody who, like, what are your thoughts on dating someone who doesn't have the same belief as you? Would you actually, dabble into, like, let's say that they're inviting you, let's say you guys are just talking in the talking stage, you're courting, whatever, and he invites you to his church, and and you invite him to your church and stuff like that. Like, how would that look? And like, would you dabble over on that side, or
Well, I'm so dramatic. Well,
love it.
let me tell you, girl. This is just between me and you, though, right? so, so, um, I'm open to it only if um he's willing to come over to the Sabbath. So I'm a Sabbath keeper.
Okay. Yeah.
I I don't see myself moving away from the Sabbath. I'm convicted in it. I believe like it's true. If he was a Sabbath keeper who went to a different church, that's not so hard to negotiate and to move
But
around,
hold on.
right?
But let's say they go to church on the Saturday, but their belief is different. So I know with like the Sabbath keeping, their belief there, and when you look at which go to church on Saturdays, and then you look at Adventists who goes to church on Saturday,
Right.
but their teaching is different because they're from LNG Way. Sabbath
Yeah.
keeping is not from there. So would you do that? Like, would you?
Yeah. So yeah,
And
it
they
would I
stuff from Sabbath keeping too, right?
it would require a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
It would require a lot of conversation and a lot of prayer. I don't want to just go into this like I'm feeling this dude and yeah, I could do it, right? Prayer for sure.
For sure.
But um in terms of yeah, definitely prayer for sure.
Yeah.
Within the Sabbath keeping bubble,
Right.
obviously prayer across the board,
No, for
right?
sure.
But the kind of person that I am, I do, especially in this area, I try to look ahead. I don't necessarily look to see me and you and how we are right now and how we jive. I look ahead. So if
Okay.
he's of a different religion and he's of a different denomination, I ask myself the following. If I have children with this person, what do I want my children to learn?
Right.
Right? Which belief is most important to me that I would, is what I want my children to like pass it down to them.
Right.
And then I also have to look at my life with you. So if you go to church on Sunday, but I'm convicted of the Sabbath and you're going to work on Saturday, that's going to be difficult for me. And
Because
then if you say we're going to have family gatherings on holidays and we're big old dinner and I got to be slaving and making turkey and curry goat and all them something on Sabbath Friday night, it's going to be hard,
right.
right? And then if if we do it on a Sunday, then will his family be okay? What if they have to work on this on Sunday
Yeah, go to
and
church.
not they don't have the Sunday off? And so it's like it's gonna be a constant tug, a
Right.
constant pull, and you're gonna have to make a decision as to what is more important than you. I think sometimes when we go into relationships with individuals, we don't look ahead enough.
Yeah,
We don't prepare enough for the future and say, where is this heading and what are the ramifications of this decision? So
sure.
yeah, I love you. We get along. What's gravy? But what's important to you?
Right.
Sometimes we don't really think about that. We don't think until we have kids and you say, oh, we're gonna go to both churches. But then you're so tired because Saturday you're going to church and Sunday you're going to when do you rest? When do
Exactly.
you have family time? When do you take a break? And then if you do decide to take a break, one of you are going to be missing out on what you think is important. Either church on Sunday or church on Saturday.
Right.
And then after a while, listen, things become mainstream normal to you, things become normalized. One of your beliefs are going to be pushed to the side.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And you have to ask yourself the question, which one are you willing to give up? Which one of you are willing to give up your beliefs? And that can cause a lot of friction in within the relationship.
For sure.
And people don't think about that.
No, I completely agree with you. I don't feel that. I feel that people really just move into the moment, the here and now, and how they feel. And you're right. We don't. A lot of people don't think down the road, unless they're in their 30s and they already have that experience and want to ask those questions. But I completely agree. So, would you date a potential? So, let's say you are dating somebody, and he is of a different denomination as you, and you guys are dating, everything is good and Chris and Curry and everything, and you're like, and he's like, you know what, I'll give it a try. I'll see. Maybe if I like it, I'll come. Like, let me see, right? But he hasn't really fully said, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna baptize and get into your church and whatever. He just says, I'm gonna see, and there be a possibility. He may visit a few times, and you're thinking, okay, there might be some possibility. Would you date a potential?
Yes,
You date a
I
potential.
would. I would. I think I'd be stupid. If we both believe in Jesus, why not? But cautiously,
Okay.
right? Cautiously, because if we're getting too serious and both of us are headstrong and neither of us want to give up what we believe, let's
Right.
just be wise here. Maybe we just make really, really good friends. Like let's be real. But I think what you were asking me earlier was regarding if somebody wasn't a Christian or not, and if I would engage. That is in the scriptures. Like, so in the Bible, it tells us don't be unequally yoked with someone who's not a believer. And
Right.
I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, it's all about love. Right? And you have like the Muslim marrying a Christian, or the Muslim marrying a Buddhist, and the Sikh marrying a Hindu, and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, as a Christian, I have to think to myself, this man is going to be the head of my household.
Right.
Who is the head of him?
Right.
That's what's important to me. Who
Right.
is he going to for guidance to lead this family?
Right.
Who is his anchor? And if I'm anchoring on Jesus and he's anchoring on some statue, blah, blah, this isn't gonna work. I have to be dusting that thing off with dust in it and blowing it. This isn't gonna work. This is it's not gonna work. I'm on my knees crying out to the Lord, and you're over here praying to some stuff. This is not gonna work for us. It's not gonna work.
No, for sure.
It's not gonna work, right? And then you have the agnostics where they just don't know what they believe, and you don't know where you're leading me.
Exactly. We all over the place. We're just flying all over.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, and you know the Bible tells you that. Don't be unequally yoked together with an unbeliever for the obvious reason.
Exactly.
Two different directions that you're both going into. And then you have to think about, so I have this individual where he doesn't really go to church, but he's a Christian. Like he believes. And he wants his baby to be baptized and all those things, but his wife is atheist. She doesn't really believe in God. She doesn't believe in any of that stuff.
Right.
And so he was like, whatever, I love her. She loves me. We get along. So I said, how is this gonna work?
Right.
Because when you want your baby to get baptized, she's not. And so that is an argument that they had. I don't know the outcome because I wasn't my business, but
Yeah.
it's like this is like a dangerous territory here,
Sure.
you know, because people really, I really think like we have to think about this as a child. And if you really love this human being, your partner, you're gonna want to make sacrifices for them.
Right.
One of you is gonna have to lose.
Exactly.
And you have to be okay if you are the one that does.
Right.
You know, so when you think about this child that's growing up and you want to have Christmas carols and whatever it is that you do, and you want to tell the Jesus story, and then your partner's over there like, this is stupid. You know, that poor kid is like,
Confused.
right? The kid's confused. They're like, what do I believe? What do I? It's either gonna hate one parent's belief and love the other, and then that parent's gonna feel kind of like bad because their kid doesn't, you know, want to go what they believe, and you don't. You when you think you have knowledge and you think you know something, and you have a child, you want to pass on that knowledge to your kid, and you feel a way when they're just like, that's stupid.
Exactly.
They feel a way.
It's very true. Yeah. It's true. It's true. Wow. Okay. All right. What are some of the deal breakers for you that if you found someone in the talking stage, what would be some deal breakers?
So one, obviously not a Christian. If
Yeah.
I found out you're not a Christian. Two, if I found out you're a Christian, but you're only a Christian in name only. Like, yeah, I know God,
Oh, okay.
right? Like, yeah. I went to church when I was like 5. Yeah, you're not a Christian, but
Well, hold on, but that goes back to the question of potential because they could be like, you know what? I haven't gone to church. Um, but I do believe in God. I am a Christian because I find a lot of people lately have been saying, "Oh, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian." Right? But then some of them will say that they haven't gone to church, but they're looking to start going back to church.
then start.
What would them start before you say, "Okay, well, come to mine"? Like
For
how?
me, and I'm not saying anybody can, I'm not saying everyone should do this. Because
Yeah,
I've seen people who, you know, through them being in a relationship, the other person comes to the Lord and, you know, becomes like this really studious Christian. For me personally, I can't see myself doing that.
okay.
Um, I I feel as though, and it's not in all the cases, just
Yeah,
some,
yeah.
you're coming to Christ, and it makes me wonder as I've seen, and maybe because I've seen too many negatives,
Okay.
probably why I have the viewpoint that I do. Where it's
Okay.
like you come to Christ because you're dating and then you get married, but the minute your relationship goes rocky, that belief you had in Christ also goes down the drain because that's what prompted you to come to God. So it's like you're trash, so then your God is trash. I'm done,
Right.
and I don't want that responsibility. I don't want if me and you end up in friction and we're dating that you're now somehow losing your faith. And I'm not saying it's gonna happen,
No, I get you.
right? You
Right.
know, I don't want that responsibility to know that something happens between me and you, and this is why you're trusting God, or because you want to please me so much. It's like, yeah, thank you for loving me so much, and
Mhm.
you want to please me so much, you're holding on to God and you're doing everything God says. I want you to want God for you,
Inside, exactly. You
you
want
know?
deep within himself and not just for that. Because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's gonna come off like it was all show. Like, where was
yeah.
that relationship, right?
And I'm not saying that they can't discover God in that process. I just know for me it feels a little bit difficult.
Okay.
And I don't want that responsibility. I just don't feel comfortable with it. I wouldn't want, if I made a mistake, if I, because we're not perfect, and I'm not saying I don't sin. And
Right.
I wouldn't want, if you're looking at me and I'm teaching you scripture and showing you the ropes, and I slip up one day and you're looking at me like,
Yes.
I thought you said, and so then now it's kind of like you're out, and I'm like, Jesus, I just lost a
Yes,
soul. Like, I don't want,
it's true. It's true. Oh, I thought you were this big Christian
yeah,
now and
no,
no, it's true. They throw it right back in your face.
yeah, I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Okay. So your deal breaker is if you say
Oh,
Christian, but you only go to church like whenever.
yeah. And so my other ones would be simple ones, really simple ones. Lying is a deal breaker. I can't. I just can't.
Right.
I won't be able to trust.
Of course not.
I just can't. I just can't. It just leads me down this hole that I don't feel comfortable with. Yeah.
And your mind keeps overthinking every little thing, and it's just like it's too much energy. So I
Yeah.
yeah.
A deal breaker for me is arrogance. I like confidence. I don't like arrogance.
Now
And
describe the two because some people get confused.
so an arrogant person is like um bossy. Oh God, you know English?
So
um very only patois is coming.
drop it, drop it.
People just they're just enough.
Yes,
Like um
like
where it's like, oh God, like, oh yeah, yeah. Like, oh I know. Like,
eh,
go sit down. It's just, like confidence is where you're assured of yourself and you don't even have to say a thing. That's
exactly.
the thing. Okay, like I'm the kind of person where people always say, oh, they want a type A guy, alpha male, alpha this. For me, confidence doesn't even have to be loud.
Yeah.
A guy who's quiet, he
Yep.
knows himself, he knows what he's about. He ain't gotta open his mouth and be like, yo, I'm the boss. Da, 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 da. Like,
It just exudes off of him.
it does. It does. And he's just so calm with it. And then you have another guy where it's like he may be a little bit more flamboyant, a little bit out there, but he's not arrogant. He's just confident. He knows I got swag. I'm gonna use it.
Right.
But arrogance for me is like
Yeah.
you just know everything. You're
Yes.
the it. Nobody can tell you nothing.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you always got something to say about somebody.
Yes.
Like
And always talking down to people like you're
I
better.
can't stand that. I can't stand that. I don't like disrespectful people. And if you want to treat me lovely, way to go. But the minute I see you treating a janitor and a waitress some kind of way, or the bus driver,
Gun. Yeah.
go. No, I can't. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want my kids growing up with that kind of attitude. You're disgusting.
And not
Sorry.
and not even just wanting your kids to grow up with that attitude, but it's like, how are you gonna treat me like down the road if like maybe we get into an argument? Or you know what I mean? Or what if you decide that you're gonna open up your mouth and say that I'm this and I'm that? Like, mm-mm.
Exactly.
That's red
No,
flag right there. Red flag. Woo-hoo. Mm-mm.
no. I just, yeah, I can't. I don't like that. I don't like arrogant people.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, God, I like them, God, but like, God's listening, like the angel, like, did you just hear her say?
Uh,
Right?
so let me okay. So I mean, I'm not trying to get you to speak for all the single people,
Yeah, man, no worries.
but like I know that, and I think we sort of exuded to it in the beginning, but do you feel that why some women, and the reason why I say women is because I'm finding that there's a lot of single women out there more than there is men. I don't know if it's just because men are just, on their low key and they're doing their own little thing, and women are obviously more vocal about being single and looking for the person. But do you feel that the reason why there are more single women out there is because they have high expectations?
Yes.
But do you think so when you say high expectations, like what do you mean? How would you describe
So,
that?
okay. So first of all, there probably is the same amount of single men as there is women, but sometimes,
Okay.
depending on your circle, women may outnumber men.
Okay. Yeah, it's true.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't single men.
No,
It
for
just means your demographic and where you are, you may have a larger population of women. So
okay.
move. But so so shut I forgot what I was gonna say.
I hear
Oh my gosh. No, but women, I find women to be so interesting. And I I I just don't know, right? When it comes on to the looks department, men can have their preferences and
Mhm.
women can have their preferences, but sometimes I feel like we hold on to it. And maybe I'm just speaking because I'm a woman and I can't speak for men.
Yeah.
But I find like we hold on to these preferences like so hard fast, and they're just shallow things too, right? Like his height and his occupation and what he looks like and his how much money he makes and his body, and we hold on to such trivial things
Mhm.
that sometimes the great guy is right there,
Even
but
though
he's like 2 inches shorter than what you like.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I just find that as women, and it's not because I'm saying we should settle,
Right.
because that's not what I'm implying.
Yeah.
I'll use this example for instance. I referred to it earlier
Uh-huh.
regarding alpha male.
Right.
I think a lot of women have this idea that alpha male is this, yes, he's dominant, but we have this idea that the alpha male looks like this.
Right.
It's the guy that looks like the gangster, the guy that's just like, yeah, well, like that guy, right? But it's like you can see an alpha male or a man can be an alpha male who isn't the guy that's always in the crowd, like the big with his chest out, right? But he could be an alpha male. And I find like sometimes women, we look at people we look at men a certain way and we put them in this bracket. And it's like, no, honey, this man is a nice guy and he is an alpha male. He's
Right.
just a quieter alpha male.
Right.
Because you sit with him and he tells you what to do and you're like,
Oh,
oh my God, okay. Tell me what to do. Right?
yeah.
Right? But we're thinking like alpha male is the guy who always has his chest out, and
Yeah.
so we look past these guys that are amazing for some like this dude he ain't really know nothing, He ain't really it's like, come on. Just
Mhm.
those little things. Just those little things.
No, but it's very true. And I have to honestly say, like, even like in speaking my experience, like I have a type. And my type has always been, I guess, the alpha male then, right? So,
Oh
tall, he has a beard, he's either bald or he's low cut, he has a dad bod and all these things and nice teeth. Like that's what I usually look for. And then I realize, and it's funny because like even right now is in my dating stage, I'm realizing like those were the guys that I went with before. And what happened to those relationships? I need to come out of my comfort zone, right? And it goes back to what you said about you're not saying that women have to settle, but I feel that, and I agree with you that we have to let go of some of these things that we hold on to, right? We need to sort of figure out what is it that we can sacrifice when we're trying to find somebody. What are certain things that we can, like, not, well, yeah, sacrifice, because for me, for instance, like I might be saying I like that tall guy, but then I might be like, you know what, maybe I'll go with somebody that's a little bit shorter. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to
yeah,
figure out there has to be that balance for us as women on what we want and what we like.
yeah,
It's funny, in social media I saw somebody make the comment that a lot of times women are single because we let our the masculinity side of us come out.
I've heard that too.
You've heard it too, versus the feminine side. And it's the guys want that feminine side, but then it's hard for us to like. And I was sitting down, I'm trying to like reflect, and I'm like, what is that masculine side though? Because I don't know if I let it out. What would you say
So
to that?
So when I was listening to him, it's funny because I was having a conversation with a friend, and she said, "But why am I single? Hold on, she said, why am I single?" And she's like, she's saying, "I do that So the masculine side of the woman would be like, I think you should go do XYZ.
Okay.
So we tell. The
Yeah.
feminine side of the woman is like, you know what? I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if such a plan?
Okay. So it's the wording
Right?
that we use.
It's the way we speak. It's the way we speak. So the masculine woman, and not to say we all have it. We all have it. I have it. I'm very much so you know,
Right.
um it's like we tell him versus suggested. So the feminine female, this is a basic example. The
Yeah.
feminine female makes suggestions. He owns it and thinks he did it. The
Okay.
masculine female tells him what to do, and he's just like, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And then it's like, oh my God, you never listen. And then he's like, oh, I'll do it, fine.
Right.
Right? But you get the same result. He'll do it, but they're two different hearts.
Right.
Right? And then he's just like, whatever. Because I don't want this woman's always telling what to do versus the woman that upholds him and makes him feel like he's a man.
Right.
Yes, I know the people listening probably like, oh my God, are they so? Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they
No,
are. Yes, they are.
it's true. It's true.
And it's funny because,
Hold on, but that goes back though, because see, and this is where I think it gets hard for us as women, because there's times where men are like, well, we can't read your mind, so you need to tell me what you want, or what do you like, or blah blah blah. And then we do that, and then now we're coming off as we're nagging, and we're telling you, like, how do we know what to do then? And then when we do that feminine side, then sometimes, I mean, obviously some men likes that piece because, as you said, it makes them feel like they made that. But then sometimes some of them are just like, what's wrong with her? Like, she don't even like talk, and she's so soft and this and that. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
I think from me speaking to a couple of gentlemen, it's we need to be direct when it comes to how we feel. So I posted this on my Instagram story today because I thought it was so funny. So the lady, she goes, listen, I want flowers, but I don't want to tell you I want flowers. I want you to get me flowers because I want flowers and you want to give me flowers.
right.
And to the woman listening, we're like, yes,
It's true though. That is so true.
right? But to the man, it's like, just say you want flowers. Like, what do you mean? If you want flowers, you tell me you want flowers, I'll get you flowers. But for the woman, we're like, I want flowers, but I don't want to tell you to get me flowers. I want you to know to get me flowers, to do it out of your heart.
Exactly.
In that sense, men are like, just be direct.
Right.
It's when we tell them what to do and it's about them that we have to make suggestions. When it's about us and what we want and what we need, be direct. But when you're saying things like, let's say, you want him to aspire to get a promotion because you see he's working hard, and you're like, why don't you just get that promotion? Why don't you just go ask the boss? You have to do it more subtly, right?
Right.
Like, man, I was thinking, like, I saw how hard you're working. Are they opening up anything at work?
Yeah.
Are they? And then he's sitting there thinking, like, what, so now he thinks it's his idea. He thinks it's his idea and he runs with it. I know the men watching are probably like, yo, what's with this girl?
It's true. Everything you're saying is true though. That's the
I
thing.
got this advice from a pastor's wife, a very senior. She told me this when I was like 16 or 17, and I never forgot it. She said, she goes, whenever you want him to do something, you have to make a suggestion and you make him think it's his idea. You never tell him what to do because it's going to be a no, no, what, constant. But
Yeah.
if you make a suggestion, the conversation opens up and he feels like he has an input.
Mm.
So it's like, well, what do you mean? Why? What were you thinking? Why are you asking about my job? My boss is this. And then the conversation starts to get even more. And he begins to speak more about the things that he probably would have never even talked about casually because men don't really do those kind of conversations.
Right.
So when she said that, I was like, but in terms of the direct, it's when it's what we want. So do you want me to take out the trash or do you want me to think you want me to take out the trash? Right? That they want direct. Be direct. Every Wednesday, take out the trash. I like candy. Buy me candy.
Right.
Something like that. They want you, when it comes down to our emotions, be direct. So there's this funny one, last joke, where this girl, it's like a meme or a meme, whatever. I'm always called them by the
Oh,
wrong
yeah,
name.
I never call it properly either.
And this girl is sitting there like pouting with glasses on, and then the captions are like, I'm mad. I'm waiting for him to apologize, but never told him I was mad.
So he's supposed to assume that you're mad.
He's supposed to know. He's
Right.
supposed to know. I'm waiting for an apology, but never told you I was mad. But it's like, how am I gonna know you're mad? But women, we do that all the time.
We do. We do.
We do that all the time. So those areas, they want us to be direct.
How we're responding to you, you should be able to pick up like, oh, something's wrong with her.
No, they don't do that. They
Yeah.
don't read between the lines. I think that's a gift women have.
Right.
We read between lines.
Yes.
That's why when another woman comes around and she's all like, hi, and we're like,
We can
you
see.
don't see how she was, da, 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 da. And he's like, nah, she's cool. No, no, no.
Exactly. And that's,
Right?
oh my gosh. It's so I guess so pretty much what we're saying is we need to be more feminine
Yeah.
and let that feminine side come out more. Pretty much.
But you know what? It's because of society, right? And society makes us feel like being submissive is wrong.
Yes.
And so they push this whole be the boss chick, go get it, go get it. And then we lose that essence about us where it's like this just softness, right? A man doesn't want to lay beside it. Well, a heterosexual man, let me change that,
Yeah.
doesn't want to sleep beside another heterosexual man. He doesn't want to engage in intimate conversations with another heterosexual man. He wants his woman to be his woman. But society pushes us. Go get it, go get it. You're the boss, you're the boss. Don't let nobody this, don't let nobody. And then they misrepresent what submission means.
Right.
And so because of that, now we have this hard time being docile. We have this hard time being like, okay,
Yeah.
because we're seeing it as you're just a pushover. Like you don't let this man talk to you like that. It's just like, actually, no. Like I tell people all the time, if they only knew the power of submission, because you can get this man to do whatever through the power of submission. Like women, and this is something I also, I'm like, I don't really have it. I can teach it to you, but personally, I don't know if I can do it.
What's that?
Like I find like women have this way. I don't know. Maybe I just don't know it. So my guy friends tell me I do it, but I'm just like, what are you talking about? I don't do that. So it's this way about you where it's like you do certain things and it's like what are you doing? Like, oh my god, how to explain?
So like
Like
over?
like what?
Like you take over?
No, no, no. It's um like what did they call it? What did he call it the other day? Um, thirst trapping, or why are you acting like you are like are you trying to seduce me right now? It's like no, I'm not.
Because of the way that we try to not act soft, but the way that we try to bring that feminine side, it comes off as like almost like a flirtatious kind of way. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess, right?
It's not what.
Not every woman, not every woman, but it's like I feel like some women have this ability, like they can really like make a guy do anything.
Yeah.
They just have this way about them, like the eyes and it's just so subtle. It's not sexual or nothing. It's just this thing. And I'm like,
And it gets
I
their
don't know how to do that.
exactly. And you're wondering like what does that person have that I don't have?
But it's a subtleness about it, right? Where you allow him to boast his chest.
Yeah, for real.
And not in an arrogant way either, right? Yeah.
Hold on. So go back to your question where you said that it's because of society
Yeah.
just that way. Do you also feel that it's because women nowadays are more independent? They're, as you said, the boss chick. They're doing their own thing. Do you think that that's also a reason as into why a lot of that masculinity comes out
Absolutely.
femininity?
Absolutely, right? And then that only increases our expectations for our gentlemen, generally speaking,
Yeah,
right? So it's like, yo, if I'm a go-getter, if this whole entrepreneur thing lately, right? I'm out here, I'm making 6, 10 figures, la 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 la. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you want somebody to match that energy.
yeah. Mhm.
And this is why I'm saying like society pushes that, pushes that, pushes that. So now you have a guy, maybe he makes 60, $50,000 a year.
Right.
You're making $80,000 a year, and you're just like, why can't you make more?
Exactly.
You know, and so
Mm. Yeah.
so we lose out. We lose out on really good guys because we're like, we want him to be like us.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but he's okay with where he's at. Like he's good. Like $60,000 is not horrible
No, for sure.
at all. at all. Like in our country, anyway, $60,000 is pretty decent money.
Yep.
You can do a lot with it if you know how to balance well.
Yes. Exactly.
But I do think that being that boss chick, that go getter chick, now it's the whole idea of like, I don't need you. I can do this by myself,
Mm-hmm. Let's
right? I can do this by myself. Da, 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 and you start listing things, and it's kind of like, was that the only reason for a man though?
exactly. And it's that's that whole thing that people are now saying, what can you bring to the table? Right? That whole new thing. What can you bring to the table? What can you do to enhance me that I can't
Right,
by myself? You know what I mean?
right.
So it's all of that also. It's yeah. It's hard for us women out here, man. We have to balance so many things. We gotta figure out, make sure we're feminine, not too masculine. We gotta make sure, we don't set our expectations way too high because
Right.
missing on out on the oh my gosh. Jeez.
I
Okay.
just think make your expectations
Realistic.
realistic.
Exactly.
And I always say, for me, the number one thing aside from the Christian and da 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 da, I want someone who has a teachable spirit and who's a good communicator.
Mhm.
Because if you can communicate and we can talk and we can sit, we can hash this out. And it doesn't mean that if I'm mad at you, we gotta fight
Argue, yeah,
and yell and scream. You need 10 minutes, I need an hour. Can
exactly.
we come back and talk about this, please, and address it and whatnot? You need that. You don't want somebody who's going to be passive aggressive and da 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 da.
Exactly.
But on the flip side, why I said somebody with a teachable spirit is if they're not a good communicator, they'll learn.
Yes.
If they are passive aggressive, they'll learn how to realize, okay, that is clearly a negative trait and I need to change this for my relationship. If they have a teachable spirit, a woman who is the boss chick, da 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 da, she can bring him up.
Yep. Benefits. Yep.
She can bring him up. So for me, when going back to what we're talking about before, in terms of the woman doing this and she's out here getting all her aspirations and whatnot, you find a man who's making less than you and he has a teachable spirit, the knowledge and the wealth and all of that you have, you can pour that into this man.
For
He's
sure.
a he can be taught,
Sure.
and he would surpass you.
Exactly.
Like, believe it, I really believe that because he's the leader of the house. You know what I mean? He will definitely take what you got and surpass you with that. And you'd be surprised if you're sitting down here like, that's my man there.
Yeah. And it
you
goes
know?
back to like as long as she's not also coming off like I'm better than you because I make more
Right.
money, that whole ego thing too, right? He'll be more receptive to wanting to be more and to push himself more, right? Because maybe
Yeah.
he never had that reason to push himself, or maybe he didn't have somebody to see potential in him to
Exactly.
on how he is. So yeah, definitely teachable. I like those two qualities that you said. Like, definitely, it is well needed.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge because the thing is, I find if you have a teachable spirit, no matter what happens, you can overcome it.
Yeah.
Whether it's sin
Yeah.
or just character flaws.
Yeah.
If you have a teachable spirit, and it doesn't even necessarily mean your woman is the one that's teaching you, maybe she just opens up the door for information to come to you.
Right.
If you have a teachable spirit, you can't go wrong.
For
I
sure.
really don't believe you can go wrong. And that's for both parties. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because it's just when we think about relationships, like we're going into it as two complete whole, hopefully, individuals.
Yeah.
We both are coming with our own life experiences, our own childhood issues, our own teenage heartbreak, and all of this, whatever. We have, certain traits about us that we've picked up along the way
Yeah.
before I met you. And everyone I've encountered along the line who are close to me, maybe they don't really, it doesn't rub them that way.
Right.
But in an intimate relationship, you're just like, babe, listen, this can't work.
Exactly.
It can't. You gotta change this.
Exactly.
You have a teachable spirit. If both parties have a teachable spirit, no matter what argument you get into, you can work on that and communication.
Yes.
That's why I say those two are just, they're so important.
Yes. I could, and I agree with you. I agree with you. So, what are you doing, like, as an individual during your singleness?
Um, well, I'm doing Saved and Single. That's one. I am finishing up my master's, so hopefully I will be a clinical psychotherapist
Nice.
very shortly with all the accolades and all of that goes with it. I can't wait
Right.
to just do that. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I have a couple things under my belt that I don't want to say.
Okay.
But by God's willing, hopefully before the year is over, um, we'll be able to see those particular projects
Come
um,
to fruition.
available.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and then just the regular
Okay.
doing the best I can, learning what my negative traits are and trying to take those off.
How are you working on your negative traits?
Well, I go to therapy.
Okay.
Um, I go to therapy. I have
Okay.
a therapist,
All right.
and her and I we sit and we chat, and there's a lot of things that I recognize that I didn't even realize
Mhm.
that I needed, and a lot of things that I picked up along the way, a lot of thoughts that I had about myself that was just like, this isn't good.
Right.
It's just I was strong for a very long time, and and I don't mean strong like in terms of the masculine, like her, like this bossy kind of girl.
Right.
Just strong in the sense that like just you can breathe now. There's certain things that I have gone through
Yeah.
that had me in like my backup, and I was just like, whew, like whatever. And it's just like you can let it go now, honey. Let
Exactly.
it go.
Right.
So yeah, that's
Okay.
important.
No, and it definitely is. And I feel that, during your singleness and exactly what you're doing, when someone's single, whether you're male or female, you definitely have to look at yourself as an individual and like what are some of the things that you need to, work on because these are the same things that are going to come into the relationship that you're going to go into, right? So a lot of self-reflection, a lot
Yeah.
of care needs to really happen during that time so that you are a better person or that person that you're going to eventually, meet up with and stuff like that, right? So, no, I hear you. Okay. During your dating, what kind of experiences have you had, and has any of them turned you off, or did you just learn from it?
Or did I lose what?
Did any out of your experiences from dating, did any of your experiences turn you off, like from relationships, or did you just learn from it and just realize, okay, this is what I got to do different? Or
Um, well, and unlike a lot of women, or maybe some, I don't know.
oh yeah, exactly.
Um, I don't think I've had very pleasant experiences, at all. There was one experience that was partially good,
Okay.
um, but that was during my phase of, do I want to be dating a guy who's a Christian, or do I not want to be dating a guy that's a Christian? Um, I needed to discover that for myself.
Sure.
Um, and I don't want to be dating a guy that's not a Christian. But that was the unfortunate part, was that out of all of them, he was probably the best.
Wow.
And that's really sad. It's very sad when we think about it. Um, yeah, that's sad. We don't cry for me.
So hold on. So the other ones where it wasn't good were those with Christians?
Yeah,
Wow. So
yeah.
that experience, so that's sort of telling. Not even telling, but that sort of makes me wonder, like, what was it other than the fact that he was not a Christian? What was it that it wouldn't couldn't work versus like why it didn't work with even the Christians that like
The reason why it didn't work with the Christians is because they were very deceptive. Um, um, and I don't want to like bad talk anybody or anything, but like they truthfully, um, they lied, and it wasn't no like, oh, I'm going down the street and you end up at your friend's house for like drinks and a barbecue,
right,
like not like that. That's nothing, right? I mean, like you have a whole other relationship happening over here, and you told me that we were exclusive,
right.
and it was just too much. I mean, the stuff that I encountered is stuff that you probably um have on like Jerry Springer or like Murray Povich. Like it's just like Mana cries, eyelash guys, eyelash.
Reminiscing.
No man, it's the eyelash. Um no, it was really crazy. But I can't even blame them. I think that who I was going into that relationship, um I don't think I knew my worth. And I think if I did, I wouldn't have entertained those individuals to begin with.
Okay.
Um, so I can't even blame them completely to say, oh, Christian guys, no, no, no. Like I said earlier, even though they're Christians, I'm not going to be naive and think that somebody isn't going to want to engage in
Right.
sexual activity or something won't happen. I'm not naive there.
Right.
But what I am saying is that yes, they were Christians, and I had a standard and an expectation that certain things, whether Christian or not, that if you and I are exclusive, you are not going to be exclusive with Jenny,
Exactly.
Jenny, Sandra, and
Roxanne.
Linda. Yeah, whatever, right? I was trying to think of names that were like not so black, but
All right, Brenda, Karen. There you
right, Jessica. I rarely ever see any black Jessicas, but anyways.
go.
So like I had that expectation, right? And when you're with someone for so long, and that like that exposed like becomes um exposed, it rocks you. Because when you're not expecting that level of deceit from someone you're going, oh, Jesus, Jesus with, and you're praying and fasting, you're not expecting that. And maybe that was my naivety, but again, I'm not going to say signs weren't there. Signs were there. And I think that because I didn't value myself enough, I would dismiss seeing certain things and maybe accepted what I shouldn't have accepted because I didn't think I was worth anything more. Um, and I believe that, right? So they have their faults, but I think that if I knew me, if I knew my worth, I don't think that the relationship would have gone as far as it had for me to be as hurt as I was. Um,
I know.
so
I think that goes for, but and that goes for like I think a lot of women,
mhm,
right? And it exactly goes back to what you said. He was a Christian. He did everything. He basically met what you expected, not knowing, right? Like, were there red flags that you saw? Did you see red flags, right? But then at the end of the day, you're also trying to figure out, like, okay, is this a red flag or is this just me overthinking or overdoing? Because that's what we do as women. We do that.
yes,
You know what I'm saying?
yes,
But that's when you bring that up though, and the reason why I say this is because I know in the world, and this is for my listeners and everybody, but there's a lot of times where they say, oh, them Christian men and them Christian women, they're not really Christians. They're this and they're that out of church and this, and you know what I'm saying? But yet there's expectations for those Christian people that they don't do these things. They are holy, they are following a Christ-like life, and things like that. But meanwhile, a lot of people say, I don't want to talk to nobody that's a Christian because I know so that they're not really Christian, they're liars and this and that, right? So for the experience that you went through, and I know you have a strong belief in your in Christianity, but that didn't turn you off at all.
no, no, I wouldn't. Okay, I'm not the kind of person who takes the sin of one and applies it to everyone.
Mm,
Um, and the funny thing about Christianity is it's an individual walk.
mhm,
Um, so while we may be under the demographic Christian, it's not all Christians that are like that.
mm.
There's some really great Christian guys out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Unfortunately, none of them to walk my way.
I was gonna say, wait a minute, where are they?
I told you, girl, we gotta move.
We gotta fight somewhere else because this is not Toronto. GTA is not working.
I gotta go to Barrie or something or Ottawa. I don't know, but like I'm saying, Windsor, Ontario, uh,
Something.
Kent. Like I gotta go somewhere. Chatham. Like I gotta go somewhere. It just-
So,
no, it's not. It's not a turn off because here's the thing, right? And this goes back to what I said earlier. A gentleman who is true to his belief in God, not in name only. And it's the actions that will speak louder than the name,
right.
right? And that's what we have to look at.
Yeah.
So if these gentlemen were true
Mhm,
Christians,
mhm,
they wouldn't have done what they did. We could have dissolved the relationship. You could have went your way. I could have went my way. Wouldn't have been no issue there,
mhm,
right? I think a true man of God respects that. A true man of God has integrity. A true man of God is not going to put a woman in a position where he knows he shouldn't.
Right.
And if she's the one in suggesting certain things, a true man of God is like, hold up, no, no, no. I'm
Yeah.
gonna respect him, respect myself.
Right.
Um, Not saying things can't happen, but I'm just saying. So for me to be like, I know I don't like Christian guys because I dated a couple of them and they were all fraud. That was just my bad experience, not all Christian guys. And again, I have to look at what I was bringing to the table, why I entertained those bad Christians in the first place,
Mm. Sometimes
right?
you don't feel bad until like later down the road, and that goes for any male or
Anybody, anybody. And even if their faith is strong now, which is why like it's interesting. And marriage is a real huge commitment because even if their faith is strong now, it doesn't mean 5 years down the line in marriage, or if we're dating for 5 years, that maybe you have a spiritual hiccup
yeah.
and you're just like, I ain't know about the God thing no more still.
Exactly.
Because that happens. I've seen marriages where one partner, or I've heard as well, where it's kind of like, yeah, I know, I've seen. I've seen actually recently, where it's like, nah, I don't want to go to church no more. Nah, I'm not with that God thing. And it's like you're just left. You still
Right.
gotta go.
Exactly.
It happens. It
Right.
happens. But I wouldn't let that turn me off. Because the same, here's the thing. This is the thing. This is the thing I think society has it wrong. Is that we say Christian, we think non-human.
True.
When we say Christian, all the things that affects humanity is supposed to somehow not affect a Christian.
Exactly. Which is
And I love to tell people, when you think of Christianity, bring humanity with you,
exactly.
because the same temptations, whether it's to cheat, whether it's to be faithful, whether it's to lie, whether it's to do fraud in business, whatever the case may be, bring your humanity with you. It's still applicable. You think because he's a Christian, his eye has scales, and it's like, I can't see you. You think we walk around like this?
Exactly.
If you're walking with tight shorts, as Jamaica say, butter rider or something,
Yeah.
you think because he's a Christian man,
Not
he
gonna
ain't
turn and look.
seeing you?
Mhm.
Even if he doesn't turn around, you think he doesn't see you? Yo, guys are so good at this. I don't think girls understand how good guys are at this. They don't have to turn their heads to see you. And sometimes I think we think like only the macho guy is the one thinking sexual thoughts. You know that quiet little brother right there is thinking about you in some kind of way.
One that's so quiet. Yeah, the confident one. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay? So let's just bring your humanity with you.
Yeah.
Because the guy outside of the church, and this is why I prefer a Christian guy, even if our relationship might go rocky,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, he has to be accountable to somebody.
Mhm.
He's going to be accountable to God for what he did to me,
Yeah.
whether good or bad.
Right.
He has to. And
Yeah.
he has to go to God for guidance in terms of how we're navigating this relationship. The guy who's not a Christian, I'm expecting the same humanity from him as I would the Christian guy. But who is he going to
Exactly.
when poop hits the fan? Who is he going to?
Real
Who
talk.
is he rocking back on when he goes, this chick getting on my last ass nerves? And the devil goes, yes, be tied. La 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 la. Right? The devil goes, left her, cheat, go there with Sandra. There's nothing in him aside from moral compass, which goes back to God anyways, which the world tries to deny,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
That's telling him, no, I'm going to be a good guy and be faithful guy. That's the law of God embedded in our hearts, and the scripture tells us that. So people try to deny this, but girl, that's a segment for another time.
Trust me.
But
Trust me.
all I can say is, don't get, if you're watching and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to date Christian guys because they lie and they cheat and da da da. Christian girls do the same thing.
I'm going to say that. Yeah, it goes both ways. It goes both because, as I said, I've heard it from both sides, from men and women that has said that, right? So that was why I'm asking. So for my last question, what do you think, and if there is one, what do you think is a misconception of a church girl versus a non-church girl? Do you even think that there is a misconception?
Yes. So there's two.
Okay.
One misconception that people have is that they're prude. Um, that's one.
Yeah.
So for the people who still think Christians are so good and la 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 la, they
Yeah.
think they can't talk to her about sex.
Yeah.
They think she won't know nothing about sex.
Yeah.
They think she's never had sex.
Very
They
sheltered.
think, huh?
They think they're sheltered.
They think they're sheltered. They think they're all virgins. They think they've never seen a man's
Ooh,
body before. They think that, she's just going to, I think a misconception about Christians is like she's a pushover,
mm,
because they misunderstand submission,
yes,
right? A misconception about Christians is that we don't enjoy life, we don't have fun, and everything we talk about is about praying in the Bible.
yeah.
No, it ain't.
You don't know what movies are about, or you guys don't go to movies. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, no, it really is, right? People think, oh, you don't have fun. Oh, are you allowed to do that? Are
Yeah,
you allowed to do that?
yeah,
Yes.
it's true.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a misconception. Okay, and have you ever experienced anybody like trying to bring those kind of talks to you?
That I can't do anything or
Yeah, you're a Christian, so you shouldn't be doing that. Why are you doing that? Or, that kind of stuff.
the only ignorant people I've encountered with that mentality are Christians.
What? Really? Explain that, please.
So, like I was saying earlier in the conversation regarding sex, some Christians think you shouldn't be talking about this. If you talk about it, you're opening the door to the devil.
Yes.
It's like, honey, no. Actually, it's a part of my humanity, and it's me not being naive.
Right.
I need to know what this man's expecting of me, and he needs to know what I'm expecting of him.
Exactly.
So those kind of things.
Okay.
Those kind of things I would get from Christians. I don't think I've been the only misconceptions I've had individuals kind of come to me about isn't even regarding dating. It's more so about the Christian life. So tithing, the
Okay.
understanding of you're giving your money to the church. Like that's so stupid. And you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your mortgage. Why are you giving your money away? Oh, like that stuff, right? They don't understand that. So that the idea of faith and logic, they don't see how you can't have both. You can't. It's you can't apply faith using logical lenses.
Right.
So I have those conversations with people.
Okay. Okay. So I want you to just briefly talk about your platform, what it's about, what is it that you're I guess the message or what it is you're trying to bring out there through your platform, Saved and Single.
As I think you mentioned it earlier, it's about relationships.
Mhm.
So currently we're doing intimate relationships.
Okay.
We had a couple episodes where I did a few lives and they're posted,
Okay.
where I spoke to married individuals and I
Oh,
wanted to know what were their perspective looking back now that they're married. What do you wish you knew before you got into this thing?
right.
Right? Because it's interesting to hear what they're thinking,
No,
right? And
sorry,
couple
and especially when you're coming from like um the Christian point of view,
yeah,
because that's not really certain things are not really taught, especially intimacy, as you mentioned before. It's not really taught within the church.
yeah.
It's seen as it's almost like a taboo. Like for instance, don't put your kids on birth control because then that means you're basically saying, oh, you know what, it's okay for you to have sex. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's a really good point. I like to hear what their thinking is. So that's good.
Yeah. Um, but to be honest with you, in a couple of the segments we had, the issues that came up, which I'm glad, which is why I wanted it, were things people don't generally discuss. So that was that in-law dynamic. Because it's one thing when you're the girlfriend and their fiance and your in-law there, and they're like, "Hi, sister so and so. Hi, mama so and so." La 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 la. But then when you become the wife, and you're the one that has the say in your household, and the mother wants to tell him what he needs to do, and he has to battle between, do I listen to my wife, do I listen to my mom, and she has to battle between, do I listen to my parents or do I listen to this man? Like there's a new world here that it's different when you were just dating, and people don't often discuss that dynamic, that shift that occurs between who you are now listening to,
Yeah, never.
because you're listening to them when you're dating, but it's in a totally different
Yeah.
context, you know. Um,
Okay.
a couple other individuals did talk about the sex piece too, and what I liked about that segment, it wasn't even so much about what you were talking about. She was actually she made a good point, and she said that we don't often discuss how one party is not sexually satisfied, and
Mhm.
how do you have those conversations.
That's a big one.
right? And she said oftentimes we think it's the man that's
Mhm.
not sexually satisfied, and in her experience she was saying that wasn't the case. You know,
Okay.
it was the other way around for her.
Wow.
And so having that conversation about, well, how do I navigate this? Like, how do I tell you
What
what I
you
want and you don't feel like you're less of a man because of it? And so it was interesting to hear her talk about that, because they tell you please your husband, please your husband, please your husband,
yeah,
da 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 da.
right.
Even society, not even just the church, right? Society has this idea of, if the woman, she's gonna come and lap dance and she's gonna do this whole thing. And but nobody talks about, well, no, not nobody, but generally you
About
don't hear about the fact that, like, boss, you didn't hit the spot still.
for me, I'm still waiting.
Right? So we had those conversations, some others as well. And now, what we're going into is a single discussion. And
Okay.
so I've had a couple interesting discussions with some individuals. So, we were talking earlier about um, preferences and what's holding us back. And, some individuals on the live were sharing, like, I just want to date a black guy. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right. But this whole idea of, why do you only want to date a black guy? And so
Right.
what's wrong with that? So she was trying to tell us, like, like, what's the big deal? And the whole idea of, what I liked, she expressed that she was disappointing herself every year. Every year she said, this is my year to be married. This is my year to be married. This is my year. And so she had this expectation and she was just trying so hard to fulfill it. So every year she felt a void. Every year she felt disappointed. So she's like, I had to learn to take the expectation off myself
Right.
and
But
just live.
have somebody though?
Pardon?
So every year when she was just saying that this is the year I'm going to get married, was she in a relationship though?
She was trying to be.
So she
So when
wasn't actually in a relationship.
No, not necessarily. So whenever the year was ending, she's saying, like, another year gone and I still have nobody. I'm still not anywhere closer to what I want. So she felt that pressure. She's looking at the clock, she's looking at her age, and she's like, come on, like, why is this happening for me? So I know sometimes we talk about everybody pressuring you to get married and everybody's on you, like, come on, when is your turn? But she's like, I had that pressure for myself. So she had to go through that conversation, which was an interesting discussion. Um,
And
and I
that's
had,
sorry, and that's funny you say that because I remember my friend used to tell me that when you're not looking, that's when it comes,
it's true.
right? And it's the same way when women are trying to get pregnant and they have this, they're pressuring themselves. They're married and everything. They're like, okay, we gotta get pregnant. We gotta get pregnant. And then they can't get pregnant and they're freaking out. They're like, why can't we get pregnant? And like, my clock is ticking. I'm like 40 something years old. I need to hurry up and get pregnant. And it's not happening. And then when it's like they just forget about it and don't think about it, it's like, bloop. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
pregnant, right? So, and so that's the thing. It's almost like we're I don't even have the word I want to use, but we're basically messing ourselves up by putting on those kind of expectations, right?
yeah.
So yeah.
I think there's like some kind of pheromone that goes out.
Yes.
But, honestly, because the thing is, we don't even realize how we're acting,
Yes.
But then when you're casual, because this happens, I think this is how I end up in all my relationships, whether good or bad. To be honest with you, I think this is how I end up in all of them. You're just casual and
Yes.
you're just talking to them, and you're just like, one day, you're just like, wait a minute, I like you,
Yes. That,
like, and you like me too. I really do, because I think the times when you're like intentionally flirting, well, I think maybe I speak for the awkward sisters out here, because when you think you're not flirting, that's when people are like, oh my god, you're flirting. Da, 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 da. It's like, I'm just being me.
exactly.
When you are flirting, you're like,
It's going
like, you have a whole wig, you're like,
all wrong.
and he's looking at you like, this chick, what the hell's wrong with her? Like,
Oh, right, yeah. And but that's like when people say, oh my gosh, I went out and I was like, I had no, like some people, I don't wear makeup, but some people are like, oh, I went out, I had no makeup on, and I was just looking, I was like looking bummy, whatever. But then a guy came and he was talking to me, he was asking for my number. But it's like, yeah, and that's the thing. Like sometimes us as women, as much as we want something, we have to realize like just let it, as you like, even as you said with your therapy, you just let things go.
yeah,
And that's what I think we need to do as women is we need to let things go. Yes, I get it. We're boss chicks. We're basically planning our life, and this is where it needs to be by this time and by this date. But we gotta just let things go sometimes and let things just happen naturally in
Yeah.
its course. Because you know what, as God says, there's a time for every there's a season, there's a time for every season. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Much as we may not like when that season is, and we're like, God, what happened? Like five people got married who's like younger than me, and we still can't find somebody. Like, what's happening? You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? It's hard. I get it. I get it. But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're having those discussions, and here's the thing, which anyone who's watching is welcome to come on. I like to have conversation with both men and women.
Yes.
So all my lives are not just me sitting around girl chat, chit chit chit.
Yes.
No, I have some gentlemen on there and they drop. Listen, when the men come through, they
Yes.
come through. Or
Yes.
true, them come true. Yeah.
And I have to say, I've watched your lives, and I mean, I like the women too, but I love to hear the men
Yeah.
because yes, you do get a lot of nuggets from them and you learn a lot. And just even hearing some of the things like your most recent guest, Pastor Q, like I was like very interesting. Like the everything that he said, I was just like, it's very interesting. And I like the way that he brought like the Christian side of it, but he also brought the other side of it, and he put us in our place, right? Because I forget what the comment was, but he made a comment. He was like, "Yeah, but you see, oh, I wish I could remember, but
Was
anyway,
it the one about when he said we lie about nobody dates?
yes, yes." And then after, meanwhile, we're hiding it and we're acting like as if we're not together, and we're like trying to, and I was just like, it's so true, right? But I have to admit that that was a really good live. Yes, definitely. I like this new segment that you're doing. I like this one, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's what we're trying. Well, at least I'm trying, right? To spend some time. We heard the married folks. This isn't a married thing,
Right.
right? We wanted to know what it is you thought you needed to know.
Right.
So now, us as single, we take those nuggets. We're like, okay, you need to know. Make sure I know that. Make sure I got that down. So it's not an issue or a stumbling block when I get married. So
Right.
now the segment, like I said, we're discussing single topics with single individuals. Some of the individuals, like Pastor Q, is divorced.
Mhm.
So did you watch the second girl? Watch the other one where he came on the other one. Oh, maybe that was the
Oh,
one
he
you
was in
saw.
the car.
He
I
was in
watched
the
the
car. Yeah, there was one before that too.
one before that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So the whole idea where he's talking, the fact that he's divorced, and I was really sometimes I get a little bit in their business. And I was like, so what's it like? You're a pastor,
yeah.
single.
No,
That
but that's
must be difficult.
a really good question because even I was wondering the same thing, right?
Must be difficult. So it's interesting to hear that.
Yeah, and even hearing his story about why he got divorced and like what he learned even from his journey, I, as I said, I really enjoyed it. I definitely do. So I have to say to my listeners, you need to visit her on her
Mhm.
Instagram at saved. Remember, it's SAVEDN single on Instagram, and you're also on YouTube, right? Not YouTube.
Facebook.
Yes.
Facebook. I
Me?
should go on YouTube, but we'll see with the Lord. We'll see how the Lord leads.
Yeah.
So Facebook is more like exclusively just individuals who are single are in there. Um,
Okay.
I post some things here and there. I think some people made some connections in there. That's not my business. I tell them to keep it off the page because I ain't trying to have nobody fighting in a Facebook group about who didn't call who back. I don't want to know.
Right.
But for Instagram, like it's open, right? Because
Okay.
I think one thing I noticed is a couple individuals were married that were following because the page is about relationships. So
Yes.
right now we're talking about, how to navigate our relationships in terms of singleness.
Mhm.
So there's stuff you can learn there. And I think if you learn how to be good in your singleness, you'll
Mhm.
learn how to be good in your relationship,
Yeah, for
your
sure.
intimate ones. But in the future, I want to explore your relationship with self,
Mhm.
want to explore relationship with friends,
Yes.
male friends, female friends, and relationship with family.
Mhm.
So all these things affect the relationship with self.
Yes, it does.
And
Yeah.
so I want to make sure, and maybe this is the whole psychotherapy part of me, which is why, right?
But you know what? That was very needed though, because all relationships that we have will eventually affect our relationship in a marriage, right? So
Yeah,
we have to be
absolutely.
able to explore those things and talk about those things.
Yeah.
I definitely want to thank you so much, Kenisha, for joining me. It was a great discussion. And, listeners, it's not just about saved and single is not just about the Christian life. It's just even perspectives that still affects us, even if we're not Christian. There's things that we can still learn. Her lives, she has it on Wednesdays. Is it Wednesdays, right?
Thursday,
Thursday. Sorry,
Thursday,
Thursday nights usually at 9 o'clock.
8:30, girl.
But anyway, you need to join her Instagram. And if you join her Instagram, you will not miss any of her lives. You'll be able to even engage in the conversation and be able to meet these people. So please, please follow her. And once again, I want to thank you, Kenisha, for this discussion. Um, Listeners, follow me on Instagram, also at Suzette's Guilty Pleasures. Put your questions, your comments. You can even go onto the YouTube page where this will be broadcasted. And you can, don't be lazy. Subscribe to the
Yes.
page, comment, and share and like. So
Amen.
till
So please follow.
huh?
It's saved.n.single.
Oh, that was actually good that you said that because I said saved and dot single. So it's saved dot
Dot
and
n
dot single.
single.
All right. And I will also have it at the bottom of the description so you will not be able to miss her. Okay. So until next time, please take care, be blessed, and stay safe.